Hello and welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show we round up all the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. We are currently in a 3-week break before the Belgian Grand Prix, so let's have a look at which stories have been making the headlines this week. And let's be real here, guys, there has been one big story that has been making all the headlines in the last few days, and that is, of course, surrounding Christian Horner. We look at both the fallout of him leaving the team in terms of what it means for Max Verstappen, and we also ask what is next for him, where he's going to go next, which teams are most likely to take on Horner as their next team principal. And we also cover Oscar Piastri's controversial penalty after the British Grand Prix. Was 10 seconds right? Was it too harsh? We have our say here. If you're watching on YouTube, skip to the timestamps in the video description to watch the story that you're most interested in. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Honestly, my timing is absolutely impeccable or absolutely dreadful depending on how you look at it. Literally 24 hours ago, I put out a video going over the rumours about Max Verstappen potentially going to Mercedes, and I said one of the reasons why he might want to do that is because of the chaos behind the scenes, the infighting within Red Bull Racing. And literally, today as I record this, yesterday as you guys see this, Christian Horner, the CEO and team principal, or former I should say now, of Red Bull, is gone. He's been sacked. Out of absolutely nowhere, Christian Horner has been sacked. There's been some murmurings about this happening. I put a video out literally a month ago saying that I didn't believe all the rumours that Christian Horner was going to leave Red Bull, but it turns out maybe there was something to that because he's gone. He's gone now. Now, he hasn't officially come out and commented on it yet, but a lot of people in the know, a lot of people within Formula 1 have had their say on this. And a lot of people as well have commented on my video going over this. I did a video straight away after it was announced going over what we knew then, and in truth, we've not really learned that much since, but a lot of people have been having their opinions on things, and I very much want to go over the possibilities, the potential reasons, of course, why Christian Horner has been sacked by Red Bull. Because there's a few interesting theories out there, and I'm sure things will come more to light soon. Now, one of the first things to come out about this, aside from the actual announcement and the press release from Red Bull Racing itself, was Martin Brundle. Martin Brundle, of course, the commentator on Sky Sports Formula 1 coverage, and he's been a very respected pundit now in Formula 1 for almost 30 years, going back further than that. He was, of course, a driver going all the way back to the mid-1980s. Now, he spoke to Sky Sports News earlier on today, and before he did, he actually did contact Christian Horner to see if he could speak with him and just try and get some more information, just to get as clear a picture as possible as to what has gone on. And while Christian Horner didn't actually speak to him, he did exchange messages with Brundle, and he basically said that he had no idea why he was sacked. He doesn't know the reason why he was sacked. Now, let's just think about that for a second here. So, officially in the UK, to actually sack someone, remove them from their position, you have to have a reason. Legally, you have to have a reason. Unless he was, of course, technically a contractor, technically a freelancer, effectively, you don't have to have a reason in those kinds of scenarios. But if you're a permanent employee of an organization in the United Kingdom, which obviously he was because Red Bull are in the United Kingdom, you have to have a reason for getting rid of them. Now, of course, Red Bull are an Austrian organization, so maybe the waters are kind of muddied on that one, but of course Christian lives in the UK. Red Bull Racing are based in Milton Keynes, so I think for all intents and purposes in this example, it's pretty much a UK employment for a British company, or at least a company that is based in the UK anyway. So he says that he doesn't know why he was sacked. Now, again, you can take this one of two different ways. Either he knows the reason why he was sacked and he doesn't want to tell Brundle, or they've actually just not told him, and the official reason is something else. Now, what is that official reason? Well, of course, there are the accusations around Horner and good old Hornergate and potentially inappropriate conduct, but he has been cleared of all wrongdoing when it comes to that with an internal and an external investigation, and really it goes down one of two different paths, and I've seen people saying that they are absolutely convinced it is one and people convinced that it's absolutely the other. In truth, we don't know yet. The proof will be in the pudding when it comes to this, but it all hinges on Max Verstappen. Now, I'm not saying that Verstappen is the reason why Christian Horner got sacked. Interestingly, he did put a message out on his Instagram Instagram not too long ago as I record this, basically thanking Christian Horner for everything he's done for the team. Of course, things could be different behind closed doors, but publicly he has said thank you for your service, effectively. Same with what Red Bull did, which is the minimum you would expect. I don't think there's too much bad blood between them. Privately, there might be a little bit, but I'm not saying that Verstappen is the reason why he got sacked. At least not directly anyway. See, there's been a bit of a civil war in Red Bull for quite some time now. You may have noticed the fact that Jos Verstappen has not really been in the paddock quite as much recently. Now, some people attribute that to the war of words between him and Christian Horner and them two not getting on. Jos did say a little bit ago that apparently is because he wants to care for his wife and he's been busy with motorsport and stuff like that and other kind of ventures, really. Doesn't really feel the need to be by Max Verstappen's side in the F1 paddock right now, which is absolutely fair enough, and I will take his word for that. But I'm just saying that some people have linked Jos Verstappen being absent from the paddock to this potential war of words with Christian Horner. Also on the Verstappen side of things, you've of course got Helmut Marko, who's the senior advisor to the Red Bull Racing organisation. So it kind of seems a little bit like, I mean, it's not the case obviously, but it seems a little bit like it is everybody against Horner. Horner is the only guy that's just kind of holding out there now, and I think the biggest supporter for Christian Horner back in the day was, of course, Dietrich Mateschitz, the former owner of Red Bull, the guy who got Red Bull involved in Formula 1 in the first place. And ever since he passed away, things have pretty much fallen apart when it comes to the organisation in Red Bull. We've had Jonathan Wheatley, who was left to go to Sauber. We've got Adrian Newey, who's, of course, left to go to Aston Martin. Now Christian Horner is gone as well. And when it comes to this, I really do think that one of two things has happened with Christian Horner, and we will find out what has happened very soon, I think. Either, and I think this one is more likely, either Verstappen or Verstappen's dad, one of the Verstappens anyway, someone in that camp has basically said, look, if we're going to stay at Red Bull, because things right now are not too great with Red Bull in terms of their performance, if we're going to stay at Red Bull, you got to get rid of Christian Horner, otherwise we're going to Mercedes. And therefore, the Red Bull Racing hierarchy have basically said, right, no, he's got to go then. We need to keep Max Verstappen. Without Max, we are screwed. And I can see why they think that if that's the case. The other side of things is that obviously the performance this year, the car has not been as good. They are down in 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. That car is incredibly inconsistent. I mean, just look how far Yuki Tsunoda is down the championship in the Drivers' Championship. You know, it honestly is miles off it right now, and it's not going to get any better. That does show that that car is not very good. And even in the hands of Max Verstappen, it is very temperamental. So either he's been forced out effectively by the Verstappens, or the Red Bull Racing Board have just said, no, you've got to go. You've got to go. You know, the performances have not been good enough, and your head is on the chopping block for that. You're responsible for that. You are the CEO and the team principal of this team. Therefore, you have to shoulder the blame, and you're out. Now, one of those two things has happened. I think to get rid of Horner just before a big regulation change like this, I think that is a very potentially misguided move. You know, you want your experienced individuals there. But, you know, we'll see what happens with this. Obviously, the proof will be really if Max Verstappen stays or goes. My money will be still on him staying. I'll stick by what I said literally yesterday. Obviously, things have changed, but I stick by what I said. And I do think that Max Verstappen is going to stay at Red Bull. So I think that first theory might be one that's happened. And before anybody says, oh, this is a conspiracy theory, how can you say that the Verstappens want to get rid of Christian Horner? Jos Verstappen literally said that the team will, quote, explode if Christian Horner actually stays at the team. So he very much wants rid of him. And if he wants Max Verstappen to stay at the team, it is entirely possible that he wants to get rid of him. And that is what's happened now. But yeah, Lauren Makes has stepped up from the Racing Bulls team to be the new team principal of Red Bull. Real fast rise from him to, you know, join that organisation and become the team principal of Red Bull Racing this quickly. You know, he's done a good job at Racing Bulls in my opinion, so he's a good replacement. But yeah, filling the shoes of Christian Horner is not easy. And shouts out as well to Alan Permane, one of the most loyal men in the paddock, who was binned off, of course, by Alpine after being with the organisation like for 30 years. He'd been there all the way since the Benetton days, so fair play to him. He is going to be the new team principal of Racing Bulls. I wish him all the best of success. I think he's been a fantastic and loyal servant to the F1 paddock, and it'd be great to see him in a team principal role for the first time. But yeah, your thoughts about this in the comments below are appreciated, guys. What's happened here? Has Horner been forced out by the Verstappens and co? Is the downturn in performance of Red Bull the reason why he is gone? Or is it all because he really wants to go to Ferrari? And that's something we've not actually touched on as well. What does Christian Horner do from here? Does he go to Ferrari to replace Fred Vasseur like some people are saying? Well, presumably he has some kind of gardening leave in his contract, and depending on how long that gardening leave is, he won't be able to do anything for the time that is actually there. It might be 6 months, it might be a year. We don't know. I mean, the guy was there for 20 years. He knows Red Bull racing inside and out, so he would have a really long gardening period, and it might well be like a year. I think Adrian Newey's was about that similar kind of time as well, so I'd imagine it'd be the same for Christian Horner. But guys, yeah, let me know what you think. Where does Christian Horner go next? Does he come back to F1? He's been such an integral part of Red Bull for so long that maybe new employers, maybe new teams in the paddock would think, well, maybe he was only good at Red Bull. Would he actually be good somewhere else? For my money, I think he'd be good somewhere else. I think he's really good at what he does, even though, of course, he does rub a lot of people the wrong way doing it. But hey, the man gets results. You know, love him or loathe him, you can't argue with the guy's record. He brought Red Bull to the top of Formula One twice. That is extremely hard to do. So for the first time in 2 decades, Christian Horner is back on the market. He's a free agent once again. He has, of course, been fired by Red Bull Racing the other day, earlier this week, and there's a lot of rumours about where he's going to go next. I mean, I said in some of my recent videos, I do not expect Horner to go anywhere whatsoever for like a year. I mean, maybe the start of 26 season perhaps, but it all depends on his severance package. Does he have gardening leave? If so, how long is that gardening leave for? I reckon it's going to be at least a year. But let's have a look, guys, because rumours about him joining not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 different F1 teams have emerged since that absolutely unexpected announcement that he has left Red Bull Racing. Full story is on the F1Chronicle.com as always, guys. Let's have a look at all these rumours. Just as Christian Horner's 20-year adventure at Red Bull comes to an end, a new one could just be around the corner. The 51-year-old was sacked this week, perhaps because of his key supporter, Chalem Yuvadia, definitely saying that wrong, do apologise, recently saw his 51% stake in the energy drink company diminish to 49%, equalising the power with the Austrian side of the business. Horner remains under contract to Red Bull while the terms of his departure are negotiated, but no operational role will be continued, although it is believed he will soon be free to jump to another F1 team. Already he is linked with Ferrari, Alpine, Aston Martin and Cadillac. We'll definitely see this man back in the paddock, said former Red Bull driver Robert Dornbos on NOS. But I think Ferrari would have too much of an impact on his family life because he's a true Englishman who wouldn't just move to Maranello, regardless of whether Ferrari wants him. Corriere della Sera newspaper reports that the decision makers at Maranello, while contemplating Frederic Vasseur's future, are not considering Horner. I can see him as someone for Aston Martin, Dornbos added, or building a team like Alpine to try and bring it back to the top. They've never been at the top. Well, Renault have been at the top back like 20 years ago, but Alpine have never been at the top. Come on. He's definitely looking for a new challenge. Auto Build claims that Horner's longtime friend Flavio Briatore, yes, those two are good friends. I know, I never saw that coming either. Totally shocking. They're so different. It's open to snapping the Briton up, perhaps by luring him with some team shares. And Automotor und Sport thinks that Cadillac would be very interested in signing Horner to replace the lower profile and less successful Graham Loudon. With all due respect to Loudon, he brings Marussia as a reference. Horner brings Red Bull, correspondent Michael Schmidt said. Loudon's face is known only to F1 nerds, while Horner's is known to the world. Hey, don't do my man dirty like that. Graham Loudon's a legend, alright. He was brilliant at Marussia back in the day. He steered the ship of that absolutely hot mess for so long, it would have sunk long before it actually did if it wasn't for him. While Horner is known to the world thanks to Netflix, with him at the helm, the project would receive a completely new appreciation and more political weight. Interesting words there. What do I make to it all? Well, it all depends on Horner's contract. It really does. What it says in terms of gardening leave. And then it doesn't matter who wants him. All the teams could want him. But it doesn't matter. If the contract says that he has to have a gardening leave period of 6 months, a year, maybe even longer, we don't know. This is the thing. It's such a unique situation to have the team principal and CEO. It'd be like if Toto Wolff got sacked from Mercedes, which never happened because he's a co-owner as well. But it's that kind of level of someone who's been ingrained with that team for so long. He knows it inside and out. He knows Formula One inside and out. And I think he'd be a fantastic asset to any team that would want him. So let's have a look at those 4 teams then. Let's start with Ferrari, because that's the one that came out first. Oh, he's going to go to Ferrari to replace Fred Vasseur. Now, speaking logically, which is not always how Ferrari works, but speaking logically, there is no way in hell I don't think they should get rid of Fred Vasseur. I think he's doing an okay job at a push. I mean, it's hard to say he's doing a good job because look how far McLaren have jumped ahead. But Ferrari are second in the Constructors' Championship, and they're going into a regulation change, as is everybody. And they need someone who is, ingrained in that team, experienced, that can do a good job when it comes to steering the ship. And having a change like Horner coming in for 2026, I just don't see it personally. I don't personally. If they get rid of Vasseur, they may want him, and he may go there. But I think that's unlikely personally. Aston Martin. Now, obviously, right now, the team principal at Aston Martin is Andy Cowell. He's only been in that role for a few months or so. It was Mike Crack, the man. I can't say his name without laughing. The man with the best name in Formula One, who was in that role before. But it's possible. We know what Lawrence Stroll is like. We know that he is someone who wants these big box office signings, Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, Adrian Newey. Christian Horner would be that. That's why Max Verstappen may go there. Imagine if we have Verstappen, Horner, and Adrian Newey at Aston Martin. That would be an absolutely deadly combination, in my opinion. That really, really would be. But would Horner go there? I think it's possible. Do I think that Aston Martin would offer him that role? I think it's unlikely. I feel like they're going to go with Andy Cowell for the time being. It could be possible he goes there, of course. I'm not saying it's out of the question, given the fact that relatively, Silverstone and Milton Keynes are not too far from one another. It is possible. I could see that. But again, we're talking about somebody who has been in Formula 1 for 20 years with Red Bull Racing, and will he want to jump straight back in again? And only he will know that. Only he will know that. He will probably need to get something at some point. He'll probably not retire on this. He might do. He might have enough money in the bank after all these years at Red Bull to just, put his feet up and just chill out. Who wouldn't like to retire at 51 or whatever? Who would turn that down if you had the chance, It's like I say about Vettel. Everybody talks about Vettel coming back to F1. Who wouldn't want to retire in your mid-50s and just chill out with your family in Switzerland? It sounds like an idyllic kind of life. And we've all seen the dude's house. Like, he's minted. If you watch Drive to Survive, you see his house in Oxfordshire. The man's minted. Married to a Spice Girl, for goodness sake. So, yeah, Aston Martin's possible. Alpine. No. I know he's friends with Fabio Briatore, but come on. He's not going to want to go to that team. It's an absolute basket case, It really is. No, absolutely not. Cadillac. Again, possible, but unlikely. I feel like they've got their man in Graham Ladd and not want to change it up. If they change it up to Christian Horner straight away, if they can even afford him, and if he wants to start out with a team again from absolutely back of the grid, no, I don't think so. So for now, I think Horner's going to put his feet up, he's going to chill out for the rest of the year, and whenever his garden leave is up, he'll choose something, he'll go somewhere. But for now, I don't see it. I don't see it personally. I think we're not going to see an announcement with Horner. We're not probably going to hear from Horner for months. He might come out in the summer break, maybe, but probably end of season, if at all. I don't think he's going to want to talk about this. I know he spoke to Martin Brundle, allegedly messaged him saying that he'd not been given a reason for his sacking, but yeah, I don't think he wants to talk about this. And I don't blame him, There's not going to be a good reason why he's been sacked. And I think we all know why he's been sacked. There's a few different things going around there. I did a video about that yesterday, guys, going over theories about the real reason why Horner has been sacked, because we don't know why yet. We just know he's gone. Simple as that. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Where will Christian Horner go? Will he go somewhere in 26? Will it be even longer than that? My money would be on 27, maybe, personally. Wait to see how this market of team principals kind of rotates around and goes. So without a doubt, the biggest talking point after a very controversial and sensational British Grand Prix this afternoon is, without a doubt, how on earth did Nico Hülkenberg get a podium finish? Yes, the man finally got a podium finish in Formula 1, but that's a topic for another video. In all seriousness, probably the biggest talking point really is whether Oscar Piastri deserved a penalty for what happened at the safety car restart. One of many safety car restarts, a lot of safety cars and VSCs during this race because it got very wet at different points. We had drivers, in particular rookies, well, solely rookies actually, crashing out of the race. And yeah, many different restarts because of that. But should Piastri have been given a 10-second penalty for what he did against Max Verstappen at one of those restarts? And this was a crucial penalty because he ended up serving at his final pit stop to go onto the dry tyres, as the tyres, of course, were finally starting to come into their own. Some drivers like George Russell and Fernando Alonso, of course, pitted a little bit too early for those dry tyres. And when it was time to pit for the dry tyres at the end, Piastri served his 10-second penalty by doing effectively what's like a 13-second pit stop in the end, and Lando Norris did not. Lando Norris came out in the lead, and Piastri was behind, and unfortunately Piastri did not have enough pace to actually catch his teammate up. So it was a decisive thing. It was crucial for the victory of the race. It was going to be McLaren 1-2. Those two absolutely miles clear of the rest of the field. I think they were like 30 seconds ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, who finished in P3. That was not a joke at the start, by the way. He did finish in P3. Check out my race review if you haven't already, but we'll be doing a separate video just going over how incredible he was during this Grand Prix. But let's keep it focused on the McLarens here because, yeah, incredible stuff really. And when the penalty got announced, I was like, what on earth is going on? How are you giving a penalty for that? It's rare that we really see penalties for safety car infringements like this. Normally it's if you're going too fast, if you're, beating the delta time. Anybody who's raced in the F1 game will know that, of course. You normally see those kinds of penalties, or if you're leaving a 10 car length gap or more to the safety car. Both of those are pretty typical infringements, the latter one being a little bit rarer, but I can't remember a time when somebody's actually been given a penalty for going a bit too slowly, slowing down a bit too aggressively is the term that the stewards would use on this one. And I must admit, when I first saw it, I thought, nah, come on, man. Come on, that is not a penalty. No way in a month of Sundays is that a penalty. But I have seen things back now. I haven't seen an onboard from Oscar Piastri's car. I don't know where this onboard is. It seems to be under lock and key. I don't know if the camera's malfunctioning on his car. I have no idea. But I haven't managed to actually find the onboard there. However, thanks to Sky's race control of Anthony Davidson, I do love watching his stuff. I think he's brilliant, to be honest with you. Without a doubt, one of the best people on Sky coverage. No doubt about that whatsoever. He basically compared the laps between the safety car restart and the lap prior with Oscar Piastri, because Oscar Piastri basically, in the eyes of himself, he basically saw himself as slowing down just like he did in the previous laps. The only difference is that he became the safety car for the final lap before the safety car restart, so he sets the pace. So in his mind, he didn't do anything wrong. He slowed down just like he did on previous laps at that part of the Hangar Straight. But the video camera does not show that really. It very much looks as though he did brake very aggressively relatively compared to the previous lap, because basically, you can weave around, you can test your brakes out just to make sure everything's keeping temperature in, because even in these wet conditions, or especially in these wet conditions I should say, you really want to get as much temperature into the brakes and the tyres as possible. So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to look after his race, but unfortunately I don't even think it was a case of Max Verstappen accelerating, because I thought Max Verstappen believed that Piastri had gone. He'd bolted, and now was the time to do the restart, but it wasn't. I don't think Max Verstappen really accelerated towards that. If he did, then it'd be a different story, but I don't think he did, and that is why Piastri got his penalty. And 10 seconds, is that fair? I mean, we'll have to consult the menu just to be sure on something like that, but I don't have it handy, unfortunately. But yeah, 10 seconds to me, it seems harsh for that, but it could have easily caused a crash between Verstappen and Piastri. Then you'd probably say that it was 10 seconds. And the stewards say that they don't judge the results of the incident, they just judge the misconduct in this case. So yeah, maybe 10 seconds is a fair penalty in this circumstance. I feel gutted for him still, though. I really do. He drove fantastically today. Before the first safety car came out, he was like 13 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, who was in second at that time. So I feel for him. I really feel for him. But unfortunately, that is how the cookie crumbles. And I think the stewards have a justification to give him a penalty. Whether a 10-second penalty is just or not, I don't know. I still don't like the penalty, but I understand why they gave it. But guys, Let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to say about this incident as always. It's going to be a controversial one. It's going to be one that really dominates the airwaves and the interwebs for the next few days. So we've got 3 weeks until another race in the calendar. It's going to be a long time for us to kind of stew and marinate about this, for lack of a better term. But yeah, what a race. I think we can all agree on that. What a race this was. But yeah, like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more of this, guys. I've got plenty of content coming in this little mini break, including the mid-season review, the mid-season grades that I did last season. I'm going to be doing it again, and I'm looking forward to it. So, see you soon, guys. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday wherever in the world, and let's hope for some more incredible Formula action when we get back to racing in 3 weeks at Spa.